Dear Toshin Hendricks, you don't understand the horse word it again. I had the threat to face that as soon as women begin to raise themselves up and approach our level, the barriers between the master and the servant break down.
Hi, my name is Pietro Rigolo, and I'm an assistant curator for modern and contemporary collections at the Getty Research Institute in Los Angeles, where since a few years now I have been part of the team working on and taking care of the archive of curator Harald Zeman. So the documents that I have here in front of me, they tell the story of a polemic that happened in the summer of 1972 during Documenta 5 about the lack of representation of women artists in that edition of Documenta. And it all started actually with an action by the New York-based group of artists and activists, Guerrilla Art Action Group, that sent to the press and to some professionals in the art world a forged letter by Zeman, a fake letter, in which Zeman basically complained about the fact that women artists are always complaining and that they should go where they belong, which is in the kitchen. And the letter, of course, kind of stirred up an uproar by some colleagues in Germany, within the city in Kassel, which actually wanted to sue the Guerrilla Art Action Group, and also a very heated reaction by the feminist critic and curator Lucy Lippard, who sent Zeman a very kind of aggressive letter complaining about the fact that she hosted him in New York for Thanksgiving dinner and gave him a list of women artists to look at and to visit in New York, and complaining about the fact that Zeman really didn't follow up on that, and that Documenta only requested these women artists to send some slides and then told them that they wouldn't invite anybody based only on slides. So of course these women artists kind of felt, played with and cheated in a way. Here, for example, we have the daybook of Zeman from November 1971, and with it we can trace actually his trip to New York and the artists he visited and what he did. And actually from here it does come out that Zeman visited only two women artists in New York, Nancy Graves and Yoko Ono, who were both artists fairly close to Lucy Lippard. So although we don't have the list that Lucy Lippard gave Zeman, we can suspect that these two artists were part of that list. And these artists did actually end up being part of Documenta 5. What I think it's also interesting to note is that in their documents and press releases, the Guerrilla Art Action Group claimed the fact that the forged letter, together with all the other press releases and documents they produced, as well as the polemic that came up of it, are all part of their political art process, what they call a political art process. And it's interesting that in a way, Zeman is also thinking about this in that way. So the Guerrilla Art Action Group, in their documents and correspondence and press releases, they talk about women representation in Documenta 5 as being around actually less than 2%. I did my own math and I think it was indeed a little bit higher, like around 5 or 6%, but of course certainly minimal compared with the amount of male artists. Not to talk about the fact that probably non-Western artists were certainly less than 1%. And as I mentioned before, this issue has been brought up in many editions of Documenta, and most famously in Documenta 8 in 1987, where the Guerrilla Girls were giving out their calling cards with numbers about representation within Documenta. And according to their counting, Documenta in 1987 was 95% white and 83% male. So women artists were only 17%. So we can see that in about 15 years, the representation of women artists didn't really increase in a significant way. It got a little bit better, but not that better. And as we know, this is still an issue that museums and institutions worldwide are still struggling with today.